Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. To talk about alleged oil smuggling in the country, we have with us tonight Customs Commissioner Rufy Biazon. Good evening, Commissioner Biazon. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's begin with Mr. G. Who's that?
He's a character whom I've heard is doing maneuvers to get me out of this place, this post. But
Okay.
that's just a side issue.
Yeah. But why is he called Mr. G?
Initial.
Initial.
Yeah.
The first name or the last name?
A name.
Of a name. Okay. When you say maneuvers, like what? What's he trying? What did he do?
Well, I've been told that he talks to people, people in important posts, trying to lobby for the position. I'm told that some of the things that the controversies that are being thrown at me are the handiwork of these kinds of maneuvers.
When you say the handiwork, meaning siya nag-feed sa media? Ganun ba yun? What? How is he doing
Well,
it?
hindi ko masyadong malaman exactly what they do, no? Pero pag sinasabi sa akin na merong mga galaw sila, no? You know, in general terms.
Okay. But this person is known to you? I mean, you've known him for a long time.
No, I haven't met the
hindi.
person.
Okay. But he's not close to the Aquino administration, not close to the Liberal Party?
I'm not sure as well how close he is to the family of the president or the party.
Okay. Let's talk about the factions that, according to newspaper reports, abound in the Bureau of Customs and are affecting operations and appointments, hiring and firing.
I wouldn't say that there are specific factions, no? From my perspective. Of course, there are persons who try to wield influence. Bureau of Customs is one agency that is, riddled with influence peddlers, name droppers, people who try to influence things. But I look beyond that. I look through that. No? Hindi ko pinapansin yung mga ganyan.
Okay. Newspaper reports have it that the two factions, one of them identified supposedly with Finance Secretary Purisima, the other supposedly with Executive Secretary Jojo Ochoa. I know you've said, and your quote has been that E.S. Ochoa has never once interfered.
Yes.
Has never once made a call to you, or no one has ever dropped his name, or what?
May isang time na the executive secretary called. And that is to tell me that if there are people who drop his name, no, for me to ignore it. So that's the only time that he called, and he has never tried to influence decisions in the Bureau. He has never tried to intervene in processes. So that's in fairness to the Executive Secretary. No?
Yeah, okay.
Hindi siya nakikialam.
Oo. And of course, syempre, makikialam syempre si Cesar Purisima because he's your boss.
Yes, he's my boss, and
Okay.
siya may pakialam. At
Siya may
may
pakialam.
authority siya talaga. But I don't see that kind of, the way it was presented is that there are rival factions
Right.
within. No?
Right.
There are none. Because, first of all, I don't acknowledge those factions. No? Hindi ko binibigyan ng pansin yung factions.
Okay.
I treat everyone equally.
Okay.
Kasi doon naman magsisimula yan eh. If I acknowledge those factions, then definitely mararamdaman within. No? But
Okay.
since sa akin, I'm blind to that.
Yeah, okay. So you can make decisions. Decisions are fair and square, and
Yes.
it doesn't matter who they're from. When you say you don't acknowledge these factions, but you know who they are, you know the people in these factions.
Hindi ko rin
Are they called a certain name, or
hindi
who
ko
are
rin
they
ma-recognize
identified
na may
with?
mga ganun, no? Yung at least the personalities within the bureau, I don't identify them with specific personalities. I was told that a previous commissioner even had a political map of people within the bureau. I don't have that.
A political map showing what? Loyalties?
Parang malalaman niya kung sino ang
Kaninong bata si
kaninong
ganito,
bata si
ganyan.
ganyan. Yeah, correct.
Okay. You found an ally in Miriam Santiago. She said that removing you will not solve the problem.
Well, it's really true. Because the problem is not personalities. No? The problem is the operating environment in the Bureau of Customs. Kaya nga may pangalan yan, pangalan kalakaran. Di ba? Ang sinasabi nga, magpalit-palit ka ng commissioner, yung kalakaran nandyan pa rin. Because that is the operating environment in customs. The problem of smuggling is one of connivance. And connivance that is allowed by the operating environment. So if we want to really stop it and or reform it, we must change the operating environment. Not just change persons working there. For example, yung basic law ng customs, the Tariff and Customs Code. It has been in place since 1957 and it has changed very little. But you know very well that the global trading environment has changed from 1957 to now. Yung procedures na nagagamit ng mga nagko-connive, nagsasmuggle, is the operating environment provided by the current Tariff and Customs
Can you
Code.
be specific? Give us a very clear, precise example.
Procedures, no? Ang procedures kasi natin, we are configured, no, to be the border guard. Pag dumating ang kargamento, ang customs is authorized to really put in a lot of scrutiny into your shipment. Now, you have this operating environment where a businessman, a trader, has an urgent need to get his goods through. And you have a customs which is empowered, authorized to stop your shipment. Diba? That's a ripe environment for corruption. Kasi merong need, merong power, discretion. If we take a look at the model of modern customs administration, yung front end na yan, hindi na border guard. Trade facilitator na yan.
What is
when you say trade facilitator, is that you make business processes go smoothly.
Fixer?
Not really, no? But binabawasan mo na ang concept ngayon is you lessen the number of procedures, of steps.
Lessen the red tape.
Lessen the red tape. Make it easy for the businessman to bring his goods in. Now, on the concern about enforcement, ang modern customs organization is dependent on risk management tools. Hindi na yung mahigpit na frontliner. Kung hindi, as the shipment comes in, no, you profile the shipment, no, based on information submitted by the importer, no, the shipping lines, etc. And certain profiles would determine kung ang particular shipment is a high-risk shipment. Then you subject it to further examination. That is the concept. But our Tariff and Customs Code is configured nga in the old system, no, not strict border guard ang customs. And again, we go back to that operating environment where there is an urgent need facing one with authority and power.
And this is the situation that is operational when it comes to oil.
Everything. Because that is a procedure set by the Tariff and Customs Code.
Did you make a dent on oil smuggling ever since you became Commissioner of the Bureau of Customs?
Well, we've instituted some measures to at least control at this point. For example, a loophole is the economic zones or the free ports. Because in the free ports, that's where you bring in fuel which are supposed to be tax exempt.
Right.
But
and
evidence
meant to be used
shows,
within,
meant to be used within or re-exported even. But evidence shows that fuel is being spirited out of these economic zones. Kasi there is a program called Fuel Marking Program, wherein fuel that is brought into the free port zones are
nilalagyan ng chemical, ano?
May chemical na hinahaluan mo, lalabas yung color.
Okay.
So may mga retail stations outside the free port zones na nahuhulihan. So there is
So if it's from Subic, halimbawa, saan napupunta? Within Zamboanga?
Neighboring provinces.
Neighboring provinces na. Okay.
So to address that, what we did, the Department of Finance, BOC and BIR did, was issue a revenue regulation mandating the collection of duties and tax on all
they come in.
and all fuel arrivals,
okay.
even if it's for the free port zone. Kung qualified for an exemption yung user ng fuel, then he would have to apply for a refund.
Okay.
So ganun yung concept na ma-plug mo yung loophole na yun.
Yeah, but that was TRO'd, right?
Yes, but recently the TRO was lifted late February or early March. And we are drafting, we just received the communication from BIR informing us of that decision. So we're set to issue the memorandum order to implement the revenue regulation.
Okay. So if you compare the figures of 2011 and 2012, although as Secretary Purisima had explained to me, medyo preliminary pa yung 2012 figures, was there an improvement? Medyo, you know, that's why my basic question is, did you make a dent already on oil smuggling?
Well, it's not yet measurable, I would say. Kasi hindi pa natin implement fully yung revenue regulation. We closed that loophole. But as far as apprehensions are concerned, may mga nahuhuli. But we want to have convictions sa mga nahuhuli.
Right.
We file cases against them. Yeah. Dapat magkaroon ng conviction.
Who are the big oil smugglers?
Well, if we base it on the cases filed, for example, cases have been filed against Shell, cases have been filed against Petron, di ba? So they can be considered big. Yung mga retailers na nahuhuli, they may be considered small. There are new players which came into the market na nakasuhan na rin. So it ranges from the big to the small.
Yes.
But ang importante nga sa amin mahabol is conviction.
Yeah. So there's the smuggling that goes on through the free ports. There's also the ones na on the high seas brought in by small barges, etc. No? So in other words, we already know how it's done. The question is, why can't we stop it?
Okay. Through the free ports, I shared the measure that we're implementing. Smuggling in the high seas. There are some which are brought in through the back door of the country, brought in by smaller watercraft, carrying
back
250
door meaning, can you be area
southern
specific?
Philippines, the area of Jolo, Sulu, Zamboanga, Palawan, that part of the country. Dinadala nila yung mga fuel in drums from Malaysia. Tinatawid lang kasi it's just a short distance. We have interceptions there. The interceptions are actually done by the Philippine Navy. Because they have the ships. We do not have.
Yes.
That's why pag pinag-usapan natin yung smuggling sa high seas or sa offshore, walang capability ang BOC. Because we simply do not have the boats to do it. In fact, kahit nga yung pagpunta namin sa pagpunta doon sa padating na vessel, kasi there's boarding formalities,
Right.
Yung pupunta lang yung tao namin to that vessel, wala kami sariling watercraft.
Okay. So it's left to the Navy, the Coast Guard, and maybe perhaps even the Maritime Police.
Yes, interagency cooperation.
Okay. So in other words, you are implementing measures to hopefully control it, regulate it at the very least, but we cannot entirely stop it. Ganun ba yun?
Well, not at this point. No.
Are we going to see the next generation before we stop? Is there such a thing?
It depends on what kind of support that we will get to address this problem. Like for example, if nobody helps us in acquiring watercraft, then definitely our capability will remain zero.
Okay. My last question, Commissioner Biazon, if ever since this blew up in your face, this story, have you been able to speak to President Aquino? And what has he said?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Because when the story broke, I was out of the country. It was
in
a convenient time.
You're just about to leave, no? You had just come back from Panama. But anyone from the President's camp had called you? Talked to you? Apart from your boss, your direct boss.
Well, Secretary Purisima, of course. Within Malacanang, none yet.
Okay.
We haven't communicated yet.
And can you summarize in one sentence what did Secretary Purisima tell you?
Implement measures.
Okay.
The sad thing here is that when the article that came out made it appear that we're not doing anything, when in fact even Secretary Purisima and I were doing the rounds of our ports even before this thing came out.
Right.
So basically what he reminded me was for us to implement those measures.
Okay, so you're not resigning. I mean, you're here and you're calling Customs Commissioner, right?
No, I'm not resigning.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rufy Biazon of Bureau of Customs. Thank you for being
Thank
with us,
you.
sir. We're taking a short break. News.ph will be right back with former Senator Richard Gordon. Stay with us. Be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching News.ph on the Solar News channel. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Tonight, News.ph returns to the senatorial campaign trail. We have with us Richard Dick Gordon, former senator and candidate of the United Nationalist Alliance. Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Pia. So good to see you again.
Same here, sir. Sir, no one will ever forget what you did for Subic,
Yes,
turning it into the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority. Now that it's been in the news again recently, you know, for oil smuggling,
Rice smuggling,
everything.
car smuggling before.
But yung oil smuggling muna, if you were still SBMA, how would you have handled it?
Well, you know, we were quite tough on that. I mean, it wasn't just customs that was trailing what was happening. It was SBMA under our leadership, and we had young people who were idealistic, who really measured what was coming in. And of course, it has become more sophisticated because what they do is at times they use a lower grade product like kerosene and then take it out and then put Toulon in it, and then it becomes jet fuel. There are many ramifications in the smuggling effort. At that time, we also had the pipeline in Subic that you could also measure the fuel. You know, you could always find out how much fuel came in. And I think the problem is always misdeclaration or underdeclaration of fuel arriving. So they declare only one half, so they get half of it, tax-free. Or there's also a ramification, like they would have ethyl alcohol or whatever it is, and then say it's really denatured. Then it comes out, it's really ethyl alcohol, and when you put the flavoring, it becomes, you know, alcohol drink. You know? So there's a lot of, you know, imagination that goes on in the effort to try and cheat the government of taxes and duties.
Right.
So you really have to come up with either police customs, you know, you could actually outsource it, you could actually bring back SGS again to make sure that what comes in is actually, you know, traced.
Yeah.
In a Freeport zone, the customs should be out at the gate, not inside.
Right.
But they should have access to what comes in so that they would know. It's very simple in this country. If you look at the goods shipped from China and you compare it to what actually came in, and how it was actually shipped, there's a big variance right away. And you know something is going on.
Right.
It's always been a big problem, especially when elections come. There are people always trying to raise money in this manner.
Okay, so it's really vigilance and monitoring. I mean,
yeah, well, you really have to have good people who will think of the country. You know, Subic has a very good reputation. Had a very good reputation at that time because people really sacrificed. They volunteered to make sure that it becomes a success. And at that time, during my time, we were competing against Singapore and Hong Kong. When they took me out and the new guys came in, especially immediately after, they started competing no longer with Hong Kong and Singapore. They started competing with the town of Olongapo. So they brought the nightclubs in, they brought the small, the people who brought in cars, and they took away land. You know, Subic is like Israel. Land is very valuable because most of the land is mountainous. So the very few land that exists there that is available should have been done for high-end investors, not the, you know, quick on the palm investors.
Senator Gordon, the Inquirer in its February 27 article about you, in that after that 3-hour-long interview with you, wrote that, and I quote, Gordon refused to delve into the smuggling issue in the Cagayan Export Zone Authority involving one of UNA's leaders, Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. Is that true? You
No, I didn't
really
refuse to
want
delve in it. In fact, I took it out of Subic when I became senator.
No, you did refuse. You refused to delve
yes,
into that issue
but
during
you know,
the discussion.
out of respect for the Senate President, he has a different view. He feels that there is no smuggling going on in Cagayan, no? And it is really not up to me to say, oh, they're smuggling in Cagayan, because I don't have any proof of it. All I know is that the goods come in prepaid with prepaid taxes, and it's up to the government. The government is now in control. They're the ones that have to account for whatever is happening there. Now, why should you make me fight with somebody that I have been identified with in a long, long time, and especially because there's nothing going on in Cagayan. I mean, they have not been able to put in industry. What they have is a conversion industry where they convert right-hand drive to left-hand drive vehicles. And, you know, in Subic, you have other choices.
Right.
So poverty is an absence of choice. When you don't have an absence of choice, you tend to do this sort of things. And if it's illegal, then the government should step in and right away do something about it. I did so in Subic because I thought there were brand new cars being brought in. I thought the cars that were being brought in were actually very good second-hand vehicles that should have been taxed a lot more. In fact, I computed it. In fact, if memory serves correct, I think they had about 27 billion pesos in taxes that were not accounted for.
Okay. Speaking of Subic, sir, how do you and former President Joseph Estrada get along now, given that one of his first official acts, if not the first one, was to fire you?
Administrative order number 1, yes, of course. Yeah. But then, you know, at that time, different times, because we didn't get along very well. We have always been very good friends. But then somehow, pumasok siya doon sa remove the bases, and somehow he got very upset with me. Still, we joke about it, you know. I picked up his cigarette butt, he inadvertently threw it, and I put it under his
I remember
basket,
that, yeah.
which, by the way, I did for the deputy of the AU as ambassador, and also for Winnie Monsod, with me, Winnie Monsod. I mean, I was just trying to set the example that you should not, you know, do that. I'm sure he doesn't do it anymore, and it's a big joke with us. Yeah. But then we can't be enemies forever. You know? Right. It's not convenience that I'm there. The fact is, you really need political parties that can really last the course. No?
Right. So you've gone past it already. I mean, it's something that it's not an issue anymore between the two of you.
I can't dwell on the past. If I did, I would be depressed all the time.
Pero napag-usapan
what depresses me now is still what is going on, or the lack of what is going on in Subic.
Right.
Or the lack, yes.
Pero sir, napag-usapan nyo ng dalawa yun? Or it was, you know, in passing na lang?
Ang biroan namin na-intriga ka lang eh.
Yeah, okay.
Na-intriga ka, sinabi na hindi kita pinapasok because magsushooting ka doon. That's not true. Galit sa iyo yung tao, nagbubusina habang nagsushooting ka. Pero yung hindi ka papapasukin, you were going to come in and have a meeting there, I have never done that. Stop meetings of the opposition because it's counterproductive. It will get back at you.
Right. Are you bothered at all, sir, that you aren't quite in the Magic 12?
Well, I'm in the Magic 12 statistically, if you believe the surveys, which I don't. Yeah. Because in 2004, I was number 35, and I got in number 5. And that was really the work of my volunteers and all that. No? But now I'm even in better shape. Of course, the farther you are from the elections, the more easy and you know, relaxed the voters are. But when it comes to the voting, they will look at the, I'm sure that many of them will look and say, who are the most qualified? And it is my hope that my record as Con delegate, and you might change the constitution, you will need somebody who understands that. That's why you should vote wisely. You might need somebody who knows local government, so you know how it operates. You might know somebody who can get jobs, like we did in Subic, and know how to compete with the rest of the best of the world. You might need somebody who knows how to promote tourism, because it creates jobs. And you know, need somebody who knows the rules of the Senate and have done strong laws like automated election, international humanitarian law, the free patent law, holiday economic, many laws. And above all, you're getting a bonus. You have 45 years of experience as a volunteer of the Red Cross. And the Red Cross has made its mark in the Philippines as the go-to organization, especially during disasters.
You really have this gift of gab, no? You'll never run out of anything to say. Ano, hindi gift of gab pala?
It's a gift to be able, it's a privilege to be able to serve our country. Gab is easy. I think the Liberal Party is Laway Party. That's gift of gab. Laway Party. Because they've got nothing to show.
Well, what I meant also is because sometimes, like, your wife would tell you, no, tama na, huwag ka na maingay, no? And then here you go.
That is principle and passion. Because ako, if I feel passionately about something and I feel strongly about it, you cannot stop me. I will say it the way it is, and even in your face. Now, in our culture, that is considered not de rigueur. So, sa akin,
it's actually very un-Filipino, no? To be direct.
No, it's not un-Filipino. It's more Hispanic, Indio. Not un-Filipino. more Hispanic Indio.
Okay.
Because in those days, we were told we were beneath their dignity. We cannot even kiss their hand like in Europe. You cannot even wear their suits. You have to wear barong tagal. You cannot even go to school at the time. It was only after the liberalization that we were able to go to school.
So we were not meant to be assertive, not meant to speak our minds.
We were daunted by their walls that they placed in our minds. Bahay kubo tayo, sila intramuros.
Okay. Sir, in a rally later the other day, you said, and we quote, maybe you're voting for the showbiz types. Politics is not showbiz. Where are you coming from when you say this?
Well, it's become showbiz because they always tell you, oh, you have to talk to the massa. What is the massa? The massa is hungry. The massa is not language. The massa is not to be entertained. The massa has to be given the reality. And the more you accept the showbiz type na paseo-seo or pa-kwela or pa-cute, the more the massa will not have the information that he needs to be able to vote wisely. And that's why I'm hard-headed. And that's why I stay longer. I say I'm the last to speak because I can elucidate on what is happening. For example, hindi ka ba nakakahalata, Pia? When we started voting in 1946, we were on top of Asia with Japan. And then the moment we voted, Japan overtook us. And then we sent troops to Korea. And then when we voted again, Korea overtook us. And then it was the turn of Hong Kong and Taiwan. They overtook us again. We used to buy there. Now we're the domestics there.
Yeah.
And then it was Singapore's turn. We voted again. Singapore went up, we went down.
And you explained it this way. You said this is because the voters have been electing the wrong people.
Precisely. Maybe it's the wrong type of governance that we're getting. And because wala silang utang na loob sa tao, because many of them are given, are want to spend a lot of money, they buy votes, or they give them all kinds of things, trinkets, t-shirts, basketballs, everything that they want to, except good governance.
Yeah.
I'm not of that genre, I'm sorry.
Why do you give whistles?
Whistles is because of my extension of
Disaster
disasters.
response.
When you blow the whistle in the Red Cross once, you stay at attention. There could be a tidal wave coming. Or when you blow it twice, take hold of your family and be prepared to leave. And you blow it 3 times, finish or not finish, evacuate. Or when you're being held up, blow the whistle. When you see somebody killed, blow the whistle.
A very useful tool, no?
Definitely.
Not like
and it's really more to educate the people that, you know, a t-shirt, I'm here to try and get you jobs so you can buy your own t-shirt. But it also reminds them that I'm in the Red Cross as a volunteer. I don't buy anybody. I'm not paid. So when I give you that whistle, it's a reminder that we can reduce the risk of carnapping, killings, you know, and be able to help in the capture of notorious criminals.
Sir, you didn't quite appreciate the way former Chief Justice Corona was removed from office.
No, because I'm a lawyer and I'm trained to follow the law. And you know, I remember Thomas More in the A Man for All Seasons when when the son-in-law was telling St. Thomas More, you'd give the benefit of the doubt to the devil. And they said, you're the type who would cut off all the laws of England, and when you found that you cut all of the laws of England and there's no law to turn to, and the devil turns sail and runs after you, you're going to be exposed. That is exactly what happened there. They cut corners. They made evidence available that should not have been allowed. You know, it's an impeachment. They could have been very forthright
about
it.
Who is the they who made evidence?
The government. The government was the one prosecuting the case.
But it was the 20+ senators who voted to convict him on Article 2.
Correct. But then that's their view. It's a political decision. It's not, you know, we have in our Bill of Rights the protection of the individual. Even if he is guilty, he has entitled to certain inalienable rights. The right to due process, the right to be able to be accosted of evidence that is probably obtained.
And that wasn't due process yet, the trial as it was.
I don't think. The evidence that was acquired there was evidence that was acquired by somebody, a little woman who gave it to a congressman. And where did he get it? How did he get it? These are, you know, there's a law that says tago yung bank deposits. Of course, in post facto, you say, oh, dapat nilalabas niya yan. No, but there's a law. And there's a law, you do it. Even if the judge sees somebody being killed in front of him, that murderer still has the right to be heard. And to have the case proven. He doesn't prove the case.
Even if in the end, Chief Justice Coron had admitted how much money he actually really had.
Well, like I said, in that interview, I said the perception was that he was guilty, and that's what did him in. But I did not like the example of using evidence illegally obtained.
But even JPE voted to convict him on Article 2.
Well, you know, in our country, the winds of politics always command, sometimes adjustments. I'm sorry, I'm not of that genre.
Okay. How would you have voted if you were a
I would have
senator?
voted no.
No.
Yeah, not
to
guilty.
convict. Not guilty on
Because
Article 2.
the evidence did not prove their case properly. Maybe the evidence presented a very perceptive scenario that, well, he's probably guilty. Well, to me, supposing they start picking up and start putting evidence and fabricating evidence or getting evidence that they did not connect, did not do a search warrant. Remember the big hullabaloo about cyber crime?
Yes.
The government was going to block your computer. They were going to enter your computer without a search warrant. The government was going to convict you of libel. Everybody was worried. Everybody said, oh no, this is wrong, this is wrong. In the same manner, when they start doing things to people because they want to be expedient, lagot tayo.
If elected, what would you do about the cybercrime law?
Oh, I would amend it right away. No, in a flash. Like Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon. Thank you very much, Flash Gordon. Thank you, Senator Dick
Are we
Gordon.
done?
Yes, we're
That
done.
quick. My gosh,
yes, thank you so much for being with us, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And thank you for being with us. I'm Pia Hontiveros. This is News.PH. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.